Welcome everyone to today's weekly career class. And this is where we host industry experts every Saturday at 5 p.m. who, share about their own career trajectories and also tell us about the various opportunities in the career landscape. So my name is Samarth, if you don't know me, and I will be your host for today. I am very excited to introduce you all to Mr. Kashyap Kompella, who is today's speaker, and he will be speaking on how generative AI will cause significant changes in the job market. So a brief introduction of Sir. He is an award-winning industry analyst, best-selling author, educator, and AI advisor to leading companies and startups in the US, Europe, and Asia-Pac region. Currently, he is the CEO of RPA2AI Research firm, which basically advises corporations, VC firms, and government agencies on AI investments, enterprise AI, etc. So before we get started, let's go over a few details. As always, this would be about a 40 to 45 minute session, and we will be having a Q&A session. So please do post your queries in the YouTube live chat. We will be sure to take them up. So now, without further ado, let's proceed. So Mr. Kashyap, very nice to have you here and welcome. And over to you, sir.
Thank you, Samarth, for that introduction, and thank you, iDream Career, for this interesting topic and inviting me to do this. So let's keep this very interactive. In the 40-45 minutes that we have, I'm sure you have a lot of questions about this topic, so please share them in the chat, and Samarth will moderate and put those questions to me. But just to give us a flavor of what we're going to be talking about, I have some slides. So let me share my screen, and you can see my screen, Samarth?
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Yes, thank you. So generative artificial intelligence. So what I'm going to do is first sort of show you some examples and define some terms. And then so that will make the discussion more interesting and more concrete. And but note that this is not a technical session. I'm just going to show you some examples and discuss more about the impact of such new tools and how should we be thinking about planning our careers, or what is impact on the jobs, future jobs that we may be doing, etc. So let's get started. So I'm sure a lot of you have heard of this thing called ChatGPT. So if you have not played with it yet, just Google it, and even while we're doing this session, please have a look at it and start playing around with it. Because it is, ChatGPT has been released only a few weeks ago, but it's really created such an excitement. And it is tough to capture what it can do and what it cannot do in words. So unless you play with this either now or later after this session, it'll be really tough to capture what it can do. Some of the capabilities you can see, you can ask this tool to give you, say, for example, how do I make a HTTP request in JavaScript? That's a technical question, right? So there is a prompt, and it gives you suggestions, or it gives you some text. It could be correct or not correct. Most likely, in many cases, it seems to be correct. So you need to play with this, first of all. So that is one thing. But let's examine this thing. So what is GPT? I mean, it's a very complex sounding terminology, but it's fairly simple. So GPT simply stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer. So let's look at each of those words. Generative means, loosely speaking, it is generating something. And there is another meaning beyond this, but this works for us. Pre-trained means, like for any AI or machine learning model, it needs to be trained on certain data. It's already comes trained with certain capabilities. It has been trained on certain data. We'll see what that data is. So that's why it's pre-trained. The T stands for transformer. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of this thing called artificial neural networks or deep learning. So transformer is simply a kind of neural network architecture, a kind of neural network that is optimized for conversations, that is optimized for processing language and text. So GPT-3 is generative pre-trained transformer. So it's a software that is powered by neural networks. The chat, because these capabilities are coming to us in this tool via a chat interface, it is called a chat GPT. So that is the name behind that. So how does it work? I mean, you can start playing around with this, just create an account. Generative indicates, like I said, it generates this specific tool. There are other tools that generate different types of content, but this generates text. So when you give it a piece of text, ask a question. So that is called as a prompt. So when you give it a piece of text as a prompt, it generates content that continues that prompt or answers that prompt. So I said that this has been pre-trained or trained. So I'm sure all of you are familiar with autocomplete, auto suggest, etc. So this is also a kind of autocomplete. It sounds very smart. The content it generates seems like very robust, but in the backend, all that is still happening is autocompletes based on what is the question or the prompt that you have given. So the English language Wikipedia contains about 4 billion words of text, roughly 4.2 billion words of text. So billion is 100 crores. So it's about 400 crores of text is what the English Wikipedia, the size of English Wikipedia is. So this software has been trained on 500 billion words. So it's about more than 100 times the amount of text that it has been trained on is about 125 times roughly than all of English language Wikipedia. And by the way, it also includes these 500 billion words, also includes that 3 or 4 billion of English Wikipedia language as well. So when it has been trained on such a vast amount or such a large corpus of text, it knows what are the patterns in different types of text, right? So it knows the patterns in different types of text. So when you give a question, for example, I ask you, how are you? So Samarth, what would you say, how are you today?
I'm fine. Thank you.
I'm fine. So my prompt was, how are you, Samarth? Or how are you? So most likely, what is the likely probability of that? I am fine, right? Or if I say, how do you do? I'm fine. I'm okay. Or, so there is a probability associated to continue the prompt. So even though the capabilities of ChatGPT-3, I mean, if you just Google for ChatGPT, you see that it has done wonderful things in terms of writing code, in terms of writing poems, in terms of coming up with cooking recipes, in terms of coming up with exercise routines and whatnot, different kinds of text, because all of that is contained in that 500 billion words of text. It's identifying the patterns. So this is based, so this kind of a neural network that is trained to generate text, it is also called a large language model, LLM. So large language models. So these large language models became very powerful with this neural network architecture called transformer, and Google has introduced this 5 years ago. So this right now we're talking about ChatGPT because that is the software that is available to even non-technical people. So there are several large language models like GPT. The version that is that this tool is based on is the Chat GPT 3.5. But GPT-3 is another model that is available in the previous version of this that came out 2 years ago, etc. And Facebook has its own large language model. Many other companies have their own large language models. So, but all the excitement right now is because this is available to everybody. Nobody need you. All you need is a browser and some English questions that you have, and you're able to see how far AI has come, or how much AI has progressed in the recent few years. So, yeah, you like I said, we're talking about text, but text here means many things: essays, letters, poems, dialogues, stories, and even software code. So that's about ChatGPT 3. So I just want to, and sometimes we overestimate the capabilities of what AI tools can do. So I just want to point out that you're already familiar with some of these capabilities. For example, when I was trying to search today on how will ChatGPT, whatever is the topic of our webinar today. So it is trying to predict what is my next question. Whenever you try to use Google, you would have seen this yourself. It is predicting what is the next sequence. That is the same capability that is there in predictive text when you're trying to type on your phone a message. automatically you see suggestions. Or the same capabilities are available in Gmail or Microsoft Outlook, where your autocomplete is happening and different suggestions are coming up. So we've seen these capabilities introduced into our tools over the last few years, suddenly because of the scale of the text on which we are trained and how we're able to optimize it for human conversational format. The difference in the capabilities are so stark. So that's about text-based ChatGPT. We'll come back to ChatGPT in a bit. But now let's look at another kind of generative AI, which is about text to image. So text to image means you give a piece of text, which is a prompt. You describe the image that you want and it is generated. So there is this tool called Midjourney. And there are several tools. I just use Midjourney. You can again try it out. So this is the image of a snake that probably doesn't exist. So a prompt was given to this saying snake with dragon horns, no legs. Okay, no legs. Black scales with red and gold patterning, colorful, beautiful eyes, beauty. So a user has given this and the output was the image on the left side that you generate. So one interesting thing is why does the user have to generate no legs? Okay, so hold on to that thought. So look at this image. This is again a synthetic image or an image that has been generated by Midjourney for the prompt of a hyper-realistic photograph, portrait of a beautiful, happy South American woman, big silver earrings, dyed hair, summer. So this is an image that is generated just based on. So text-image capabilities. This woman that you see on the thing looks like a photo, but she doesn't exist. So this again is generated, like each machine learning model is trained on different things. While ChatGPT was trained on text, Midjourney and image to or text to image AI models are trained on a vast database of public images. So the data set on which it is trained is different. So the prompt for this picture is that photograph, close-up portrait of a 62-year-old tough decorated general, like an army general, clean shaven, serious, stoic, cinematic 4K. So you just describe, I mean, your wish, it's like a genie. Your wish is its command. You just specify I'm a 63-year-old man. Okay, it's trying, okay, this person is going to look a little old, not as young as Samarth is looking. Then it's clean shaven, etc. But you get the idea. It's not just photos, but you could give different styles. So this is like a gesture painting, guac on paper, a female martial artist with a staff, bow staff, dynamic pose, professionally painted, etc. So now you pause and think, for somebody to create these images, I mean, I wouldn't be able to create these images or draw these images. But now all of a sudden, because we have access to these AI tools, generative AI tools, in about a minute, I'm able to generate images of like this, which probably I'll use in my advertising campaigns or in my websites or wherever I want. So I hope you get the idea of image generation AI as well. So even more interesting, generative AI is code generation. So ChatGPT, there are a lot of examples of ChatGPT. It has been generating Python code, JavaScript code in a whole bunch of other languages as well. You just describe, hey, give me the code to create a form like this. It is going to create that code for you. You try to run it, and if it doesn't work, again, you say, hey, because this is a conversational interface, you come back and say, this code is not working. So, or you write a piece of code, and you can use it to say, why is this code not working? It is trying to. So programmers among you will realize that if you think about Stack Overflow, what is Stack Overflow? Stack Overflow is a website or a community where if you have programming problems or if you are looking for help out there in specific situations, you pose a question. So experienced programmers will try to assess the situation, provide suggestions or provide working code and whatnot. So I believe they have maybe about 15 million such questions that people have posed. So if there is an AI tool that has looked at all those questions and is able to present them to you on demand. And it is also trying to figure out. So sometimes if it is not in the database, it may not work. Sometimes it may make errors, etc. So that we'll talk about those things. So that is what ChatGPT is able to do. And what you're seeing on this slide is GitHub. Microsoft's GitHub has an offering called Copilot. So in programming, again, there is this concept of a pair programmer, right? You pair up with another person and do programming together, so that you're discussing the better solutions instead of writing in solo. I mean, some companies follow it, some companies don't follow it, but they're saying, hey, here is a tool, an AI assistant when you program. You pair program with AI. Because a lot of it, I mean, these days, IDEs are quite powerful in terms of, I mean, the number of lines of code you have to actually write, because they automatically bring in all the libraries and all the functional, all the functions, like all the syntax is provided to you, but still it involves a lot of typing. So can you write programs more faster using such things? So these are the tools that are right now available for everybody. And because the tools are so new, everybody is figuring out what to do. For example, there are some companies which are saying you don't use tools like Copilot, because I mean, we want code that you personally vouch for. We don't want like code that has been generated by the machine. Or there are certain, I mean, very nitty-gritty things like some of the code on which tools like Copilot have been trained are open source code. So are you violating, if you use the same code without attribution, any licensing concerns are there or not? So these are things that our companies are figuring it out at this point in time. So those are some of the examples of generative AI tools, but these are not the only generative AI tools. So we talked about text to image, text to text, other forms of text, including code. There could be text to video. You say, I want a video where a following action happens, but that's not as mature as some of these other things that you saw. Or you could have, if you talk about video games, or if you talk about architecture, there is a lot of 3D modeling happening. There is a lot of world building happening. So there is also text to 3D that is again being experimented upon, and people are working on those things. Let's come back to ChatGPT. So if you think about schools, colleges, and many other programs, a lot of your homework, a lot of your assignments are you need to write something and turn it in, right? So automatically when people saw ChatGPT, they're like, okay, here is my homework, do my homework. So here is write a 500-word essay on, say, Indian independence struggle. And people have asked all sorts of questions, and it turns out that it is doing an okay job of coming up with seemingly sensible things. Not all of it is correct, because like we said, it is not operating based on any understanding of the world, but it is just predicting what could be the next sequence of letters, etc. But many people have found it that it works for their essays. It is writing as well as, I mean, when I tried for some of my articles, etc. I mean, if any job is going to be lost, it's going to be mine first, because it is analyzing a vast amount of text, which is what I do. I read a lot of research papers, I read a lot of articles and reports and whatnot to form my opinion. Now, all of that is available at the click of a button. I write, I mean, based on my understanding and knowledge, so that is again, so because of concerns like these, some schools in the US have started saying, hey, you can't do your homework using tools like ChatGPT. So I also want to point out at this point in time, with respect to India, that ChatGPT works very well for the cases it works, but only in English. Of course, it does a bit of translations, etc. It can figure out, if you ask a question in Hindi, it is probably figuring it out. But it doesn't excel in other languages as well as it does in English. So there are 7,000 languages in the world. But such kind of AI, this is broadly like, say, natural language processing, we used to call it natural language research, NLP research. So such AI tools are available only, my guess is about for maybe 15 to 20 of them. So there are 7,000 languages in the world. You have these tools for about 15 to 20 of them. And when we read articles like, okay, could AI be doing students' homework? I also want to point out that only about 25% of school students in India study in the English medium. So is this like, the questions that keep coming up is like, then what happens? Is there unfair advantage to some people? Will it increase inequalities that are already there? Those are a whole bunch of Pandora's box of issues are coming up, but that is not for, I mean, I guess, like students or people who are trying to use this as a tool to decide, but it's also important. It's not just for English essays, but it can be for different subjects as well. It can be for history, for civics. Hindustan Times published, as they were preparing for this session, they were asking, give me some UPSC questions. Okay, so UPSC questions, it was giving some questions. So then I was trying to take a few days ago the IIT exam questions and see, because I read something that, okay, this is able to solve certain math problems or physics problems, etc. So it could not solve any of the IIT problems. So that is an interesting note. So when we talk about the capabilities of the tools, it is also things to be kept in mind. So our topic is about what does it mean for jobs, etc. So different types of professions are there, right? There are writers, there are marketers, there are lawyers, doctors. I mean, you name it. There is like at least, I think iDream Career says there are about maybe 50 career families. Right? There are 50 career families, and I mean, all of which are practically involve a lot of knowledge work. So will ChatGPT make lawyers obsolete? I mean, these are big news media outlets are writing about these things. Similarly, like doctors are taking notice and saying, what can tools like this do for my medical practice? So this is the stage. I mean, no other tool in AI I have seen has really captured people's imagination like this. And that is because it's more readily available. Previously, it was available only to a limited set of experts, but now it's democratized and the capabilities are visible to everybody. So are the limitations also, but that is the moment we're there at this point in time. So instead of the beauty of this chat GPT thing is average level of text. For example, it can very readily generate in like 30 seconds. So this Twitter user said, I was thinking I'm going to try to put together a list of all generative AI use cases. But I mean, obviously the party trick is to just ask GPT to do it. And he said, okay, describe 20 possible generative AI use cases, etc. And give me across these different things and display them in a table. So across health, across technology, across business, it's come up with, you asked for 20 and it's sort of come up with these questions. So I want to pause and point out a few things right now here. Let's forget about the quality of the content that is being generated. But what I have noticed and have been very impressed is the ability to sort of understand the inputs being given, understand in quotes, but figure out, like say, display these in a table. And I'm sure like a lot of you would have interacted with the chatbots of different websites. You ordered a pizza or you're trying to order a pizza. It is a very painful process via a chatbot, right? You'll have to specify 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's a long sequence of steps. Or if you try to figure out in a complex question, you ask a complex question to a chatbot, it says, sorry, I don't understand this, what you're trying to say. Let me route to a customer service region. But look at the prompts that are being given. And it is able to sort of figure out what is the pattern that you're looking for. Display these in a table. These are the columns I want in this table. I want a 20. Right? So that is, again, one more thing. So if you have an assistant like this, the question, I mean, all of you who've joined today, you would have come from different backgrounds. You're hoping to go into different set of professions. But here is a tool. It's in very early stages. Frankly, it would be wrong of any of us to say we know how this is going to pan out. What are the use cases? How is this going to be used, etc. But if you had a digital assistant, if each of us had a digital assistant to ourselves, how would you use it? for productive use, for not productive use. There are debates going on that we should ban these tools. But my thing is, no, I mean, we're not banning calculators, right? We're not banning computers. Originally, when they were introduced, they were also like huge productivity. They were seen as, okay, this is something that will be unfair advantage to people who don't have them, or to have over people who don't have them. So like that, if you had an seemingly all-knowing digital assistant, or seemingly all-knowing because the content that is generated is not always accurate, but it seems plausible. So think of it like if you had a smart 2-year-old MBA student who is your assistant, how would you use that in that? And this person learns, keeps getting better as so how would you use that? So that's the context for generative AI. I've sort of taken a bit more time in the context than I wanted, but I also want to point out, situate generative AI and our excitement around generative AI in terms of the field of AI itself. So AI is not new, as you see from this busy graph. The term was coined in 1956, so that's what, about 44 plus 23, about 60, 65, 66 years ago. So at that point in time, in 1960s, we were having the kind of discussions that we're having today, saying, so the 1960s is really the age of AI. So, and each time there is a lot of huge excitement around AI and what jobs it will create, what jobs it will take away, etc. Because we will automate new things, etc. But we seem to find out that though the technology is very impressive, though it seems to handle a lot of things, maybe it hasn't resulted or it hasn't taken away any jobs. So this period of excitement about AI is called as an AI summer or AI spring. And when people sort of experience AI for some time and it doesn't do what they wanted to do or what they thought it would do, that period when there is a disappointment about AI's capabilities is called an AI winter. So 1960s, people were very excited about artificial intelligence. 1970s, and the kind of AI we were dealing with also was very different at that point in time, different paradigms. Right now, we're with artificial neural networks and deep learning, but it was different things at that point in time. So the first AI winter happened in 1970s. So then again, people went silent. Then in 1980s to 87 again, there was some improvements in AI, expert systems. So there was another hope that AI would do. So then there was another winter following that. Then 1990 through 2020 is a period of research after excitement. And so we are right now probably in the fourth AI hype wave. So this is happening since the 2010s because there have been advancements in computer science, advancements in digitization and the availability of data and easy access to computing power and whatnot. But again, we are seeing, if you remember, those of you who've been following the field of, say, autonomous vehicles or self-driving cars and whatnot, around 2014 to 2013, etc., there was a lot of optimism that we'll have fully functional self-driving cars on roads, at least on US roads, by 2020. There'll be fleets of robo-taxis and whatnot. And similarly said, AI can scan and interpret, or AI can interpret X-rays. So radiologists will be out of jobs, etc. So during 2013 to 2017 timeframe, there was this intense discussions of what is going to happen to a lot of white-collar jobs or knowledge worker jobs. But during the same time, as AI has progressed, those fears of AI replacing jobs hasn't really happened. So if history is any indicator to go by, there is not going to be a mass unemployment because AI is going to automate one complete category of jobs around. This is a very complex topic, but this has been my observation. It remains to be seen what happens. Jobs haven't been eliminated does not mean that the nature of work, the nature of jobs itself, what actually you do in a job doesn't change. So that is one point to keep in mind. The next point to keep in mind is many of these tools look like they know what they're talking about. They have general intelligence. They understand what we're asking them and creating output based off that. So when you see science fiction movies, there are these robots or AI in human form or AI in machine form, which has feelings, which has consciousness, which is acting of its own will, on volition. It can do a multiple variety of things and whatnot. So that is general intelligence. But the kind of things that we are building right now are narrow intelligence. So these tools do one thing very well, seemingly very well, because they have understood the underlying patterns, the underlying data very well. So if you have a chess playing robot that plays chess very well, it doesn't play Scrabble. Similarly, the Scrabble tool that can help you with Scrabble is not going to play chess. ChatGPT 3 can't generate images. Midjourney can't generate text. Midjourney can't generate, or DALI, or this kind of image generation tools, they can't do arithmetic. So what we are building is narrow tools, like your calculator. You have a calculator or an Excel spreadsheet that's very good at the formulas that it knows. But outside of that, it can't do, it gives errors. So that is again something to keep in mind. What we have is narrow intelligence, not general intelligence like humans do. But still, narrow intelligence can be very useful. And in many domains, it can be faster, better, cheaper than humans. So this is a distinction to keep in mind. So any discussion of impact on jobs is always going to be thinking of what new jobs will it create? What jobs will it eliminate? And how will it change both for these new jobs and the eliminated jobs? Is it going to eliminate parts of the job? Or is it going to eliminate, what do we say, certain steps of that job? And what jobs? I mean, this is a more interesting question. What jobs will AI make less attractive? So not like, I mean, if you think about it in the economic sense, I mean, all of us want jobs which pay well, which have good career prospects. We want to be in demand throughout, much sought after for our skills. And we want that job to be meaningful, impactful, creative, etc. But if you're competing against machines, if that job may be automated, that part of the job may be automated. Say, for example, we decide that all essays are going to be graded using tools like ChatGPT. So if your job is like grading those essays, grading like assignments or whatever, so that's you're competing against machines. So when you're competing against machines, even though the job may not be eliminated, the amount of rewards and remuneration that you can demand for jobs, so jobs will be lessened, and it's not going to be very attractive. So these are the kind of things that we need to be thinking about. The answers will differ based on the kind of profession and the kind of job that we are thinking about. So in closing, I mean, in what I have seen, I mean, my advice would be AI will not replace humans. I mean, you've seen the capabilities of the machines, the capabilities of the software tools that we're talking about. You've also seen historically that there have been AI waves, AI winters, and AI summers coming and going, but we haven't seen that change the nature of the jobs so much. But is this time going to be different? Are the tools that we have so different that they will eliminate jobs? My sense seems to be that they will make us more productive. They'll make us better at our jobs. You pair program with an AI assistant, it is going to be, I mean, make you so much more productive. You're not entirely dependent on it, but you're using it as a brainstorming tool, perhaps, or you're using it as a learning tool in the context of programming. Or if you're a marketing, writing copy, writing text for your advertisements, you use it as a brainstorm, a colleague that you can brainstorm with, or a colleague that can write parts of it. Similarly for images, similarly for other domains, in legal domain, in medical domain, anything. So AI will not replace humans, but humans who are adept at using such AI tools will outcompete humans who do not learn such AI tools. I'm not saying that everybody learned to program AI. According to my estimates, there are about 500 million people in the world who are knowledge workers. 500 million people is like 50 crores, right? Yeah, 50 crores. 500 million. But there are about 25 to 30 million software developers or programmers. So knowledge workers are about 20 times. Even the 500 million, depending on how you count knowledge workers, it could be 500 million to 1 billion people. So the number of software programmers has grown up so much. Still, it's only about 25 to 30 million. So how do the vast numbers of these knowledge workers become adept at using those AI tools? Understand the AI tools, what are they good at? How can you include them in your work? So you need to understand what are the scenarios in which you can apply, what are the scenarios in which you should not be applying, you should be applying your thing. So that is the concluding piece of advice I want to give to all of you. How can you, whichever career stream you're looking at, what is the, what are the various ways in which you can use AI, generative AI tools? There are other types of AI tools as well. So how do you use those to make your work better? And whatnot. So that one last thing I want to say is like this. I think the iPhone was introduced in 2007. So that's about 15 years ago. Of the 25 million software programmers, I would say about 10%, 2 to 3 million would be mobile app developers. So in 2000, we did not have any mobile app developers. Even if we had very few people because we had like Palm and Windows mobile phone, etc. But the people who were developing those things would be like in hundreds rather than millions. So any new technology, our recent experience shows is going to create new categories of jobs you need to be able to take. Content marketing or search engine optimization related jobs. That's again a big chunk of marketing these days. Those jobs did not exist 20 years ago. We don't have to talk about say AI creating new jobs or AI eliminating new jobs. We can see different categories of jobs and being created and skills being in demand as that there is more digitization and there is more how do you say usage of technologies in our lives. So I'll stop here and ask Samad throw a few questions at me.
All right. Thank you so much for the wonderful presentation. I also really liked, and I'm sure others as well would agree, that we really liked the note on which you concluded the session. So now moving on to the Q&A session, we have a few questions. So question number one is from Mr. Ashutosh Agarwal, whom you might know. He is the CTO here at IDC. So his question is, one second. Just give me a moment. Yeah. So it would be interesting for our IDC counselors to know about a few no-code, low-code solutions to guide students in the future of software development jobs.
So low-code, no-code. I mean, the idea behind low-code or no-code. No-code means you don't write any code, but you still build applications, software applications, mobile apps or web apps or really desktop apps. Low code means you won't write a lot of code, but you use a visual drag drop. So how low code, no code tools work is you drag drop pre-built components and you drag drop the logic or the application flow, and then the code is automatically generated. So that is one category of no code. Again, the people who are developing applications using low code, no code are called citizen developers or whatever. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to take power users and making them build their own applications instead of relying on IT or software programmers to develop these applications for them. So that is a low code, no code model of building apps. There are a bunch of different types of low code apps. One is simple automation tools. If this, do this. Because a lot of the applications are if user selects this, do this, user selects this, do this, right? Simple automation. So they exist, say tools like Zapier, etc. These are consumer oriented or simple web integration oriented low code, no code apps. There are also tools that come with a business process management tool, BPM tool, or there are categories of tools called RPA or process automation tools, which again mostly are no code application. These work like Excel macros, where what you want the application to do, you record in an Excel. You can record the steps in an Excel, and then that is replayed. This is again common in software testing tools like Selenium, etc. So depending on what you are trying to do, there are a variety of low code approaches to doing that. But interestingly, GPT-3 is my guess. Tools like Chat GPT-3 are going to change that paradigm a bit. Existing paradigm was all these low-code tools were associated with a certain platform like business process management or RPA or something else. But now, if you have a pay program, the AI is developing the tools. If you wanted to build a website, today it is possible to open up Chat GPT-3 and say, hey, first give me the text for the website, give me the images for the website, and this is the code, give me the JavaScript code to make that happen. So it's interesting to see how we use generative AI tools for low code, no code, simple applications. Again, I want to clarify that any discipline, not just programming, is all about exceptions and complexities. So these low code, no code tools will do like 80% of the job. But for 20% of the job, you again need people who know the programming and the coding. So I hope that gives enough commentary on the whole low code and no code. But yeah, I think like we learn about 3 R's, right? 3 R's, like education, they say is about 3 R's, which is reading, writing, arithmetic. But maybe there'll be a 4th R, which is about artificial intelligence. And the low code, no code belong there maybe.
All right, thank you, sir. So moving on to the next question, we have Ms. Bhavna, who is a counselor here. She's asking that, are these tools free for everyone? If I create a code or a picture, will I be able to have a copyright or something on it, or can anyone use it, including the organization whose tool I have used?
Oh, this is a fantastic question. I think I should applaud you for this question. I mean, very practical question. Okay, how much does it cost? So in general, our experience with AI has been that technology is fantastic, but the economics are still being worked out. ChatGPT 3 right now, for example, is free, but they have hinted that each query is going to cost you maybe a cent to 5 cents or something like that. So a cent is like maybe 80 cents. So let's say each of these use cases that we're talking about, will it be viable if it costs you 5 rupees to ask that question? Will your homework be valuable to you? The time saved, is it going to be valuable to you for if it's going to take 5 rupees? And you'll probably have to use it multiple times. So if it's going to take you 50 rupees to generate a usable essay, is that going to be good for you or not? So that is one thing. But most probably, maybe the company that you use, the company that you work for, will license these tools for you. So probably the cost for an individual maybe doesn't matter, but if your school uses it or if your company licenses it for you, like they license other software tools for you to use. So it could be part of that. And a lot of these capabilities will be integrated in the tools that you're already using. If you're using, say, a Canva for design or a Photoshop for design, for image generation or a Figma or whatever, these capabilities will start appearing in those tools. So that's one question. The next very interesting question is about copyright. Specifically for images, the copyright issue is not settled. There is a big fight going on between owners of these images, artists, and the people who are building these AI tools, saying, okay, so I mean, this is our intellectual property. Without our permission, you cannot use it. So there is even a case that's going on in the US about these things. So since it's the early stages of these tools, we don't know the copyright issues, what the courts will decide. There are stock image providers like Getty Images who said that they won't permit uploading of auto-generated images or generate the synthetic data onto their websites. So that we don't know yet. But as of now, if you use, say, a tool like one of the image generation tools is what do we say, stable diffusion. So when you generate a stable any image that is generated using stable diffusion, the copyright belongs.
All right, sir. Thank you for that. So let's move to another interesting question from Mr. Rajiv.
Of course.
Hello, I think you lost connection a bit.
Yeah, I'm back now.
All right. So now we'll move on to the next question from Mr. Rajesh. He's asking, what are the inbuilt measures in such AI tools against their misuse?
At this point in time, there aren't many because it is tough to prevent misuse. because I mean, they may, ChatGPT, for example, has tried to build some workarounds or guardrails around it, but it is easy to overcome those things. So the tool makers will keep building such safeguards, but the onus is going to be on the people who are using it. It's the same thing with Photoshop also, right? If you generate a bad image with Photoshop and circulate it, the onus is still on you. So if you think of it as the onus is still on you when you use these AI tools as well. We haven't figured that out. I mean, it would be remiss of me to say that, okay, we know the answers. We haven't figured out what are the... So that's why there is a lot of opposition saying this makes spread of disinformation, this makes a spread of fake images, etc. much faster, cheaper, and at scale types. So we haven't figured those uses yet.
All right, sir. Thank you for that. Now, I have a question for you. So, what would be your advice to people from the tech and both tech and non-tech backgrounds in context of such changes in the job market? What do you think they should do to stay relevant in the future?
So yeah, I think so. This is a very important question, and the answer, unfortunately, is that the shelf life of useful skills, the shelf life of degrees really has come down. Like in my mother's generation and my parents' generation, they could just finish their education at one go and like on the basis of that coast on a career or work on a career for next 30 to 40 years. Unfortunately, in my generation and in the next generation, continuous lifelong learning seems to be the way to go to stay on top of your field. And the need to constantly upskill yourself is going to be there. And there are a lot of examples of, what do we say, people coming out of the software industry because you need to learn. And people in the software industry, you said like, for sure, technical people, they're like, okay, the software that I need to keep using changes every 5 years. New versions keep coming. I need to be getting trained. So I want to do an MBA or move out, etc. Unfortunately, even for non-technical professionals, this need for constant upskilling and reskilling is going to be very important. So my practical advice would be prepared with the mindset that every 5 years, you need to get a new credential or a new skill. I mean, of course, you can always coast on what you know, but to be in demand, to be in the top of your field, you need to be prepared to be a lifelong learner.
All right. Thank you so much for that, sir. And I think with this, we have come to an end to this session. It was a very wonderful session. And we have, in fact, received very nice feedback from our audience. And all of them are thanking you on chat. So thank you so much for that, sir. And to our audience, I would like to say thank you for joining us. I am posting our contact details here in the chat. You can connect with us in case you have any career related queries or require support with respect to your career future. So with that, we will end this session and we will see you next Saturday, right at the same time. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, all right then. Thank you so much.